Welcome to Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Here we are after 2 years in hiding. We're back again with Leaders Leading Leaders. It's a podcast to explore all things leadership through the lens of Dreem Health, Head and Heart framework. In a world where partial leadership was once enough, and if you have a look at what's going on in the globe right now, it certainly is no longer enough. And to have true lasting impact, we really need to lead as a whole person. We have to lead with clarity, confidence, grace, and display that grace under pressure. And that's where self-leadership comes into the picture, because how we lead ourselves sets the tone for how we lead others, our teams and our organizations, and certainly the whole globe right now. This space has been thoughtfully created to share insights, tools, and reflections across a range of topics from leadership, business, personal growth, goal setting, love, health, awareness, and more, much, much more, to help you find balance, focus, and flow. And to do that all with ease, grace, and love. I can't tell you how excited I am here today to be with you with the beautiful Sierra. This episode is called The Power of Women's Stories with Sierra Melcher from Red Thread Publishing. And this is very, very dear to my heart, and you'll realize why in a second as well. But let me introduce this wonderful woman to you. Sierra is the best-selling author, international speaker, and founder of Red Thread Publishing. She has over 65 books published and more than 300 authors supported across 28 countries, with 33 individual book awards for these authors. And Sierra's on a mission, and it's no easy mission either. She's here to empower, with her team, 10,000 women to become successful published entrepreneurs. She brings a deeply human collaborative approach to writing and publishing, and she's based in Medellin, Colombia. I was so fortunate to find you, Sierra. Sierra is also an award-winning author of Typo, The Art of Imperfect Creation, a celebration of creativity, authenticity, and embracing imperfections. And that's exactly what we were talking about this morning, weren't we, Sierra? Welcome.
Always, my dear.
Welcome to this podcast. And I can't tell you how excited I am to have you, in particular, to kick off Leaders Leading Leaders again. First of all, how are you?
Thank you so much. I am great, Dreem. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. And I'm grateful to be invited into this space, but especially I feel honored, and I want to celebrate you coming back into this space as well. So I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you. I mean, we've been in touch for the whole time as well, because you've had a lot of, you and I have done a lot of work together. And to give our audience a little bit of context, the reason why this particular podcast was given a rest was because I was busy also writing the first book that was never meant to be written. Then I was writing the second book, which was meant to be written but was put on hold, and now we're back to it. As well as, what was happening in Palestine and the deep impact on humanity that it's had in the global leadership. So our attention went into that and helping a lot of the trying to help as much as we can. And it feels like a drop in the ocean. A whole host of challenges and issues globally, and the refugees that were coming here to Australia. But let's get started with you, because I think it's really important that we start with this whole storytelling. Especially, I know as a Palestinian, our story hasn't been told, and a lot of times it has been suppressed. So let's get started with this whole storytelling. Why did you start doing what you're doing?
I love this question. I love to be asked this question so that I can remember my why as well. So it starts in an unlikely space. I am dyslexic, and learning how to read was among one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And I was 13 or more before I even began to get the basics. So the likelihood of ever writing a book, reading a book seemed unimaginable. Writing a book was so far from that. But you've already said this, we have stories to tell. And coming in with obstacles doesn't preclude us from having a story to tell. There's more than one way to share what you have to share. But needless to say, I learned how to read. I became an
That's
educator.
incredible. Yeah.
It's sort of cool. Yeah. I became an educator in part because learning reading in particular was very difficult for me. But I am a natural teacher, and so I became an educator, and then moved to Columbia, and one thing led to another. And I had tried many, many times to write books, and I had succeeded at failing. I'd started
First act in learning, as they say.
as many people do. You have to try it and screw it up. Unfortunately for me, it's also true for many, I failed, air quotes, and then waited a decade because I assumed that that single first failure was indicative of all of my future. And then I started to test that theory and studied and got into writing myself. I wrote my first book. I found it so empowering, so challenging, and so interesting. And I watched the women and the people around me watch my process. And it became very clear to me that the two things that I loved the most, storytelling and empowerment, could be one in this space of taking what is in our hearts and in our minds and put it into book form. And so that's how
The
I
red thread
came to
was
run a
born.
publish, and Red Thread was born. Yeah.
And from your experience, so this space you created for women in particular, correct?
I originally started the publishing company to focus on women's stories. We have grown and evolved, and have two companies essentially, but really focusing on the women's voices at the time felt particularly missing from a global conversation. We are half the population, but our books and our voices didn't feel to be represented in the global awareness. So I wanted to support more women to get their voices into the collective consciousness. And that was the original mission, and we're still on it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the women's voice,
Yeah,
because if you have a look, and I can't help but keep coming back to this, while the whole leaders leading leaders started in a business space, organizational space, it has sort of transferred now into the personal life as well as the global sort of
yeah,
geopolitical space. And we are, whether we like it or not, we are in a critical place, aren't we?
for sure.
What is it about the woman's voice that can help or change the trajectory
Hmm.
of this chaos of where we're at in organizations, in our personal lives, in the geopolitical space,
I
from your
love that.
opinion?
Um, One of the things that I know to be true from experiencing it and witnessing it is we write a book so that others read it, right? And that is a super powerful tool. It is a mechanism, a method of taking what is personal and making it public. And it's incredible. That in itself is changing the tide. But with the way that you framed the question, and I would hope to bring this up anyway, is something else also happens when a woman takes her story outside of her living room or conversations or her conversations with her family and her kids and moves it into a public space, a space that has traditionally not been for us. Something else also happens. I feel like it's in our DNA, like chemically and neurologically, we begin to see ourselves differently, which means we show up differently and begin to take up a bit more space. We use that voice more more effectively and on a broader spectrum. So it's, in a simple way, I would say it transforms us. By writing a book, we are transformed into leaders. It's a struggle. Every author that I work with, women in particular, have this conflict about stepping into this space, but it is truly transformational. I always say that, you come in as a writer, but you leave as an author. And that transformation maybe doesn't seem like a big stretch. But again, going back to dyslexia, I look at words differently and I see things differently. The root of the word authority is author, the person who tells the story, which allows us to paint the entire picture, to show the universe from a certain perspective. And I feel like it's really important now more than ever to bring more perspectives to the table, to hold the mic longer and shine the light into spaces that have been left unseen for too long.
Yeah, I love that, Sarah. And as you were speaking, the thing that came to mind was, as creators, as nurturers, as providers of love, that femininity that we bring to the world, a lot of us keep it on the inside. We think we make ourselves quite small, don't we? We think we'll just look after our micro area. And once you write that book, once you pour your heart and soul into something, and you see it, you call it the birth of a book, right?
Certainly do.
And a child, it does change you, and it does give you that confidence to keep going and to stop making yourself so small to reach your full potential, doesn't it?
We talk about a book like a baby, which really activates mama bear, right? The feminine energy can be quite soft, it can be quite gentle, it can be nurturing, but it can also be quite fierce. And that protection of justice and what's right and not standing by while your baby is being hurt, that's not an option, right? And to bring that energy and that power forward, to look in the mirror and say, oh, that's in me, allows for women to show up in a fundamentally different way, for themselves, for the people around them. But the ripple effects of and implications of what that means are really quite profound. It's what fuels our mission.
Yeah.
We're not aiming to have 7 billion women write books. I see the tide turning with a few voices can really make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, as you were speaking, even you sort of answered one of the things I was going to ask you around. Well, what are the themes that are coming up with all these women writers that you sort of coach through the whole process, help to come into publishing, to birth this beautiful creation?
One of the things that I've noticed over the years that I've been doing this is that there's a collective subconscious, because the themes that come in waves, and we will have 5 or 6 books about a similar topic within 6 or 8 months. To me, that says there is something in the atmosphere that people are picking up on, and everybody's coming at it from their own angle. But there was like a year of grief, death, dying, estate planning, coming at it from lots of different angles. And I thought that was so beautiful, actually, that there were a lot of people thinking and feeling about the same thing. Because one of the things that happens, I think we play small because we're plagued by these doubts of who am I? What do I have to share? What if it's not good enough? And all of those shrink us, right? But to have enough people challenge and like reject those fears and suspend disbelief and just go forward is so incredible. So over the years, there have been different waves of things. And from my seat, I feel like I've got a preview of what's coming because people come to me with the stories that are right on the front line of what's next. So I think it's really cool.
Has there been sort of a moment of transformation from one of your authors that stayed with you over the years?
Yes, and it's the same moment for almost all of them. And it's what I was just hinting at, because there is, before I became a published author, I looked at authors as like those people over there, like unicorns. There's something in the water. They were born this way. They're over there and I'm over here. And to go through this journey from writer to author, you have to challenge a lot of your self-conceptions and beliefs about who you are and move yourself from here to there and to become that thing you thought was never possible. So one of the consistencies that I witness in authors is they come in with this question, this core, it's not even a question, it's a doubt that they have made true. What if I'm not good enough? What if I don't have something worth sharing? And that's not even a question, right? It's a negation of story. It's
Yes, yes. And I think from that perspective, I mean, I even think about my journey.
Mhm.
Um, and I think to myself, it was always, who do I think I am? Especially on the topic. I mean, we've been working
Yep.
together for quite some time now. And if you think about the topic that I wanted to speak about, yes, it was in the leadership space, but it was
Yep.
all about global leadership. It was about the Palestinian plight. And I had been writing up to chapter 4 in the organizational leadership space, and then, put it to the side, I was mentioning. And I was kept thinking, who do I think I am to be writing on such a topic? But it was from a leadership perspective, as well as a psychology perspective, human behavior, which is my authority. And also as a Palestinian who has been around for decades and
Yeah.
decades, viewing what's going on, you could see that something was about to happen. And I couldn't
Yeah.
believe, like, is it serendipity, or is it the universe?
Yeah.
Is it God? What is it that, I mean, I came to you, and then
Yeah.
the 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 diabolical situation in Gaza and the Palestinian situation in Gaza just exploded.
Yeah.
And here I was, only a few short weeks away from publishing a book with you.
On the
How
exact
does that,
topic.
on the
Yeah.
exact topic, how does that happen?
So this is that transformation, that breaking point where we can no longer believe these doubts. And you're
Yes.
a perfect example of, you hear a whisper and like, I'm gonna do this impossible thing. I'm gonna write a book that I'm, air quotes, not qualified to write on. And I don't know why, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna go do this impossible thing and I'm gonna not do all these other things that I could do. You devote time and energy and love uh, to this impossible dream. And it feels impossible until you're there. But this is what I mean when we're all these voices are coming forward, and yours is probably the most global, impactful timing. It doesn't even feel enough to call it a synchronicity, right? It's You'd been writing something for 2 years and you came to me and the globe exploded,
Exploded.
right? Exploded. And it was just so clear to you, so clear to me. This is a message that is needed in this time. And so what happens is the transformation, to answer your earlier question, is we come in with a doubt, but everyone asks me, they're like, what if I can't? What they really need to hear is, oh, girl, you've already done it, right? You've come this far, you're already there. But we don't believe it until we're on the other side. And sometimes not even after that. It took me a year after I'd published my first book to really identify myself as an author. And so the shift from what if I can't, once people publish, a new question starts to niggle, and it's what else can I do?
What else can I do? I mean, that's a very, very important question. And just bear with me for 1 second. I need to change these.
Perfect.
I'm going to go back to old technology because I could
love
hear
it.
it falter.
Old school, baby. Yeah, this question of
Can you
what
hear
else
me
can
okay?
I can hear you great. You can hear me?
Can't hear you for some reason. Just bear with me.
Okay.
Okay, how are we going now?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me? No.
So you can hear me fine, but I can't hear you.
Is it my mic now?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you
We're just
beautifully.
going to have
How
to go
about?
without headphones for me.
Yep, that's okay.
That's okay. They'll cut it up. But I think, can I
Yep.
let's just take 1 second.
Yep.
So on that, Sierra, one of the things with writing the book, and just for anyone who's listening to this and to our viewers, the book itself is called From the River to the Sea, Humanizing Freedom. And it really is all about the humanization because Palestinians had been dehumanized to such a level that 2 years on, you can see what's going on and how we have allowed for a genocide to happen right underneath our noses. And people, the general public is great, but people are willing to allow this to happen to others. And so it does talk about, well, how did we get here in the first place? Because it certainly isn't the first genocide that's happened in the world. Hopefully, it will be the last. It's been a very, very tough time. But one thing I often say to myself is, how did it come to this point where and you're right, it's not serendipity.
No.
Somehow, why was I called to write this? And then all my work sort of transformed itself. And while I do still work in strategy and leadership and with organizations, executive coaching, we do women in business. We'll talk about that in a second. Women's, programs. We do personal development. We do focus on sales and growth, and all of that is really important. That commercial acumen is beautiful because I love growth. Like my partner, my business partner, and I, we absolutely love what we do. We're very passionate about human behavior, how to transform it. But there was that one moment from writing that book to having it being published that changed something in me.
Mm,
Do you find that with all your authors?
I do. I do. It is it's a fundamental shift. It's an identity shift. It's one of the things that it's why I love this work because yes, we create products, we create books that I'm old school. I still think they're one of the greatest tools for connection and change, but we're also creating authors. And and no matter what, no matter how many more books you write or conferences you lead or anything, you will forever always, after this moment, be an author. Your identity is permanently changed and it puts you on a new path. It fuels you in ways that you couldn't have imagined before. That's part of why I love what I do.
No, absolutely. And I absolutely love that. And I'm so grateful that I did write the book and found you before this diabolical situation.
I know from my perspective, sometimes I have to just to ground myself because things can get so bleak and so dark. To ground myself, I go back to From the River to the Sea, Humanizing Freedom, and I read the second section around the heart.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself to live by my values and how to keep my heart open during very dark times so that I can continue the work that I'm doing. And it doesn't matter where that work is, be it in the corporate space or in the in the humanitarian space, in the advocacy space.
In your own living room,
I
there's
know
no
exactly.
difference, right?
And
Yeah.
it has transformed it. I have to admit the imposter syndrome, and let's talk a little bit about that, does come out. I mean, the first time I was introduced as an author, I had to sort of like look around Sierra. I go, they're, they're talking,
Where's the author?
they're
Who is that?
talking about
Oh my
me.
God, I love that.
So, what would you say to women? What advice do you give to women who want to go
Oh,
down this path, but they're not going to go down this path for
yeah.
whatever reason that's holding them back?
I do say often, if you have this, if you've heard the whisper, because it's usually a whisper, it's not a shout. It's a, what if you wrote a book? Or, there's just this tiny little whisper. If you're hearing it, it's going to keep coming back as many times and as many ways as it needs to. Um, I mean, I can say you owe it to yourself. The world really needs what you have to share. Um, but it's this invitation. And coming back again, we're going to keep probably circling this concept. You heard a whisper, but you didn't know who needed to read your book. You didn't know where it would lead you. You didn't know at the time of writing how significantly it would be needed. And globally, it would be obvious, but you showed up for it anyway. Imagine not having made that choice. Imagine stuffing it back into a drawer and letting it wait another decade.
Wow, that's, I just felt that, by the way, Sarah. uh, because because for me, if I look at that, it did change me. It has changed my perspective on a lot of things. When and because I'd gone through a couple of your programs, and we'd already written that chapter in a women's global women's book, which was just the
Yep.
spark. But it was beautifully written, and it ignited something in me already, and I knew I had to write that book because it still focuses on leadership. It focuses on the heart. It helps people from an individual perspective on how to look at the different perspectives, how to question yourself, and then what ultimately is the truth. And for me, had I not written it, had it not been published, had I not gone through all the challenges, I mean, had it not been for you, it wouldn't have been out there because if you recall, the person who was meant to write my foreword sort of ghosted me straight away.
Yep.
The it was very hard to find publishers, PR agents. And it has been for a challenge to get it on shelves. It's online. I mean, for anyone who
Yep.
wants, go online, you can purchase it. All profits go to um, humanitarian causes here in Australia for the Palestinian refugees. But the main thing that it taught me is that you have to put yourself out there and it will find a way. Organically, Sierra, it has found a way for us to
Absolutely.
and I can continue working on it, but I don't have to. I've realized that, you know what, if a PR, I can't tell you how many PR agencies have actually rejected me as a result of the title, but it's a beautiful
Yep.
title as well. I mean, we went through that. How long did we go through it in terms of From the River to the Sea, Humanizing Freedom? Do you spend
Yep.
a lot of time on that with most authors?
I think naming a book is a really important practice. It is a significant piece of I mean, you don't just have a kid and name it whatever, right? Like it's gonna be that the shaping that person's identity. You introduced me by giving the title of one of my books, right? That I'm not just gonna call it book 3, right? It matters when we name it, because it also calls in who needs to read it. It's a very significant piece of the process. There's 40,000 words in a book, but you have 6 in a title. So what are we gonna do? I love that process. The title workshopping is certainly one of my favorites.
It's so significant. Even the title of my book, and the imagery behind it is so powerful, so heart-centered that it gives it so much meaning. And I often say to people, the front cover was enough. The front cover was enough for me. But then as I go and read it through, I'd go, wow, that really brought out the best in me. And sometimes when I go, where did that come from? It really is a very spiritual process of writing, isn't it? And here we are now, on our second, the second self-published, or not self-published, sorry, book that I'm writing currently, which is, can I mention it now, or do we?
Of course. Let's mention it. Hint, we're gonna start telling people you're pregnant with another book baby.
I am, and it's time to actually do talk to people about it, because you know how you usually wait
Absolutely.
12 to 14 weeks before you tell the world. Well, we are well and truly past the 24
Way past.
but
Yes.
nearly here. It's called Unfollow the Leader. And it's the original book that we sort of put to the side, Sierra, and now it's time for it to be born. And I do believe as a result of writing that first book, it's made me even stronger. And while the concepts are always, they're timeless since humankind began. But self-awareness is one thing that you never ever stop growing, is it? So the meaning behind the words have significant difference. The examples that we're using is significantly different, sorry, it's significantly different. So from your perspective, how would you frame up to someone? Again, it's really important because I want people, first of all, people should read that book of yours, can you repeat it? Can you bring it up again? It's called The Art of Perfect.
Typo, The Art of Imperfect Creation, and then Permission to Do It Badly. So hard. I'm like, I wrote it because I need it. I'm like, I don't want to screw it up, but we can't do it better if we can't first screw it up. Like I just
And
like
you
this
always say that
conversation.
to
It's
me
just
around have that it's the worst first the first draft is the worst draft anyway.
always.
At Dream Coaching and Consulting, after the vision, we do a lot of the work on vision. You should dream big, and then we become very pragmatic on how we're going to start this. And perfection isn't the way that you start anything. So you just do the brain dump, correct?
Absolutely. And that is what, I mean, you just said something earlier is these concepts are timeless, right? And this is another place that people get hung up of like, other people have written about this before. What do I have to add to the conversation? Right? Okay, fine. Those are excuses to not participate and not to share.
Mm.
But there's also a continual evolution. And you were naming this of you are different than the woman 3 years ago that started writing this book that's about to come out as a result of everything that's happened to you since, as a result of the first book you published. We are in constant evolution as individuals and collectively. And I don't need to write a book that every person on the planet reads. I'm not writing for every person. And this is my hack to give myself permission to go ahead, to screw it up, to share, because I'm writing for the people who need what I have to share. Some
That's
people don't like it. Some people don't want it. Some people don't need it.
and
Okay, that's great. Actually, thank goodness, because if everybody needed it, the pressure would be too intense. So I focus on, I mean, we started with story, but I think if we're talking about leadership, it's really important to figure out who are we sharing with? Who's the audience that needs this message? And that helps me, and it helps all of our authors burn through some of the doubt and the fear. Because when we're in that headspace of who am I? What if I can't? That is really self-centered. Actually, it's really navel gazing and focusing on just me. But I'm not writing my book for me, no matter how I will transform and be changed. I am writing a book for others, even if it is one person. And I ask this all the time. If you wrote your book and it could make a difference for 100 people, 1,000 people, if you wrote your book and it was meaningful to 10 people, would you still do it? How many people do you need to reach with your message to make it worthwhile? So many times people say just like one. If I could make a difference for one person, I would still do all of the work. And for me, that comes back to the mama bear, right? I don't need to raise every kid in the world. If I can make a difference for one person, I will throw down. I will walk across hot coals. I will do what I need to do, despite the fear, despite the struggle. And for me, what's more beautiful than that? That is leadership. It's, I will do for others from
Absolutely.
this place.
And that brings us to the point of, we might not be able to change the world, but you can change someone's world. And that someone's world, we don't know who that person is, and they can significantly change the world.
Yep.
And so, who are we to question that? And the other thing that I look at myself from myself is, who do I think I am not to take this step? Because I'm disadvantaging the world if I don't.
Yep. I love that reframe. That's powerful.
It really is, because it's like, what am I, if I don't, and if I hold back, who's going to be missing out?
Yep.
Who needs this message? So
In exactly the way that you're going to frame it, right? It's this message presented in this way at this time.
at this time,
Right? And who are you not to?
exactly,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Who am
amazing.
I not to? So as women, we're also asked now these days to lead differently, with more intuition, collaboratively, and so forth. And what do you think the future of leadership looks like for women?
I really hope, and I am actively struggling and attempting to put this into practice, but I hope that we can find a way that does not require so much hustle, so much martyrdom, that our ability to lead is not at a sacrifice to ourselves or our families or our health or our mental well-being. Because I do feel like certainly the generation I grew up in is work harder, right? You want to be successful in this world. As a woman, you just have to do it all. And I can. I can. And I can do well. But what I think one of the things that we can offer, one of the things I bring to this whole process is, what if it doesn't have to be hard? What if my leadership or my gifts to others don't come at a deficit to me? And again, it's so simple, but books are these beautiful little iterations of our hearts and minds and souls. And you write it once. This is my second book,
Love
like
that. Yes.
like yours. It's the first one I wrote, the second one I published. And I read it every year, and I'm like, that was a great idea. Who wrote? Oh, I wrote this. Like, but it becomes immortalized. It's externalized. And will 100 people, 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people over the course of time around the world, people I will never meet, will never know, but I took a single effort and replicated it to a limitless reach. And one-to-one is great. One-to-many allows for me to do a thing and then to not have to do it every day with every person who needs it, because there is a very firm limit to how many people I can serve and help when I think about it in those terms. But now I've just exported some of my soul into the pages of several books, and there's no limit on how many people that can reach. And to me, that's, oh God, it feels so good.
It does feel really good. And I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of us, you can work really, really hard. You can. And
Sure.
you achieve things. It just comes, and I know this now for personally, it will come at some form of, there will be a price to pay for it, especially as women, we go through perimenopause, menopause.
Yeah.
The impact will be felt then. That's one thing. Right now, as I work with women, I quite often, that's why it's called health, head, heart. We have to look after our health because at some point in time, it's all going to catch up to us if we're not careful. And there's no point in trying to be a hero if at the age of 40, 50, 55, or even 60, we just collapse in a heap.
Yeah.
And then the premise behind dream coaching and consulting is that you can have it all. You just can't have it all at once. And you have to.
All at the same time forever. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
we can do though is we can work in a way in harmony with our flow,
Yeah.
and the whole one to many becomes something that is possible if we allow ourselves to stop, to go deep into that space and think clearly through, well, what's my next step? And I think that's what you've perfected in this whole publishing, red thread publishing. And speaking of that, Sierra, we've got at Dream Coaching Consulting a new program coming out. It's called From Chaos
Yeah.
to Clarity, Women in Leadership. And we're going to be launching it very soon. So please watch this space. You've been a huge part of this inspiration because you always talk about, one to many. And I've seen you at your retreats and the on Zoom and in what do you call it when you've got all your things in on.
We've got a lot of master classes and ways, because I do, like you said, I live in Medellin, Colombia. I am a single parent raising a 10-year-old daughter, right? I'm not flying all around the world. That takes a huge amount of energy in this phase of my life. The question is, how can I show up and serve as many people as possible without driving myself completely crazy or into the ground? Because from that space, I can't help anybody. And
Yep.
so it's a matter of rethinking what does leadership look like? What does success look like? And what does leadership look like? What does success look like? And I'm coming back to your original question. I think we should do a lot less. I think we should go a lot slower, because that's when we find our true voice and our true power. I know when I am hustling and grinding, I can get it all done, but I'm sort of not even present. And the quality is at stake when I'm trying to do everything for everybody. But I can do amazing things when I give myself permission to slow down. And at the very beginning, your introduction, I think there's this idea that to be successful, we need to be only a certain part of ourselves. And that feels like anatomically incorrect. The truest power that I think we can bring to leadership is to fully integrate all the different parts of myself. So I don't hide that I'm a single mom living in a country I wasn't born in, and that I grew up dyslexic, and that I think you should slow down. Like all these pieces of myself inform who I am and how I work. And so to leave out a part of myself is to do disservice to what I can bring. It involves a bit more attention, but I think it has a much more significant impact when we're able to do that.
That's so profound. And it really dovetails into exactly what we do at Dream Coaching Consulting. And I think that's why you and I sort of connected so quickly. It didn't need a lot of words, did it? Because
No.
if we have a look at From Chaos to Clarity, that Women in Leadership program that we're putting together, and it is a one-to-many, but it's still very much centered on an individual.
Yeah.
The reason why we put it together, this is Gloria, who's my dear friend and business partner, is because we noticed that most women want to do so much and it is chaotic. We go, how about we start doing the small things in huge ways rather than the big things in tiny, tiny little ways that never get off the ground? Because that's the trick to getting things done. So you're allowed to dream big, and that's why it's called Dream Coaching and Consulting. We start with this huge vision. And it's interesting because most of us, when I talk to people and when I talk to women, when I say to them, what do you want in the next 5 years? It's tiny. Yet, what do you want in one day? They've got 30, 40 things on the list. And again, no, let's just start to work on it. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
It. We want you to dream really big, and then we'll help you to break it down to such a small, tiny little pieces, the lowest common denominator, so that you can execute it and still feel at ease. Because creativity only comes when you slow it down. You want to do more, slow it right down. You want quality, slow it right down. And it goes against our nature because we've been trained to work so hard. But that is what we're trying to break, isn't it?
Exactly. I've been thinking about this today, even in particular, is what if this one conversation, this hour, this podcast is the only thing I do today? Is that enough? Because I think there's that whole enoughness, right? But what if I can do a powerful thing beautifully with ease every day? Every day for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years. That adds up. It adds up. I kid you not. I've been doing a practice now for most of a year. I have a running list because at the end of the month, I'm like, what have I accomplished? Can't tell you, blah, blah, blah. It's not enough. I'm not there yet, that whole story. But every single day, I make note of any win, any victory, with this estimation of having about 3 every day. Sometimes they're external, sometimes they're personal, sometimes they're really subtle. But at the end of a month, I have a list this long. And it helps me really focus on the slowing down and doing the small things so I can see that accruing of impact over time. We're not doing 90 things in a day. Maybe it doesn't feel like it's enough, but what if one powerful conversation every day for the rest of your life? What's
With
possible?
ease, grace, and love. And I think that's the key to it. And that's what most people are looking for. And the whole, it's almost like you're speaking the dream playbook here. Okay. You're talking to and thinking. It actually is very inspiring. It makes me even more inspired. It gives me more energy. And it doesn't matter what your dream is. Your dream is very personal to you. Your vision, your goal is very personal to you. It's how we get there that's really important. And that you can do it the easy way or the hard way. You can. It's just a question of stopping and which way do I want to do it? And so for me, that's why one, we're addressing this leadership program, women leadership program, and calling it from chaos to clarity because it can be chaotic, but it doesn't have to be. And so then we're going to talk about this whole busyness. Have you ever met people?
Mm.
How are you? I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy being.
Yeah.
I'm really busy being busy being busy. And you go, you
Yeah.
spend most of your time being busy, but you're not doing anything. So it's how do we break that cycle so that we can have a flower on the side of our. By the way, I've never seen you without a flower, and I love it.
There's rarely a day without one. So
It's beautiful, and I love it. And it's quite inspirational. So here's the thing. The reason why I wanted you back on this as we were starting leading leaders again is because you have so much impact on people's lives, women's lives. How can they find you? How can they find Red Thread? What do people need
yeah,
to do to find you?
absolutely. Well, redthreadbooks.com is where we can always be found. We are improving, we're dusting off our Instagram game and LinkedIn. Those are the best sort of social platforms to find us on. But if it's not clear already, I love talking to people about books. I love empowering people to find the courage to tell their stories. And I love witnessing and supporting that transformation from somebody who's not sure they have something to say to being a best-selling, award-winning author and etc. And all the things that the doors that are opened that for people as they move into that space. So anybody who has heard this whisper or questioned their own doubt of whether they have it in them to have something to share, those are the people I wake up in the morning to talk to. So
So
yeah, our
beautiful.
website's the best place to start.
And we will have all the details as well, Sierra. For me, it's been such a pivotal moment in terms of meeting you quite a few years ago, because as you know, I did do it the hard way to begin with.
Mm.
And I had met the wrong people, and in terms of from an editing and publishing perspective. But as soon as I landed on this beautiful lady called Sierra from Colombia, Red Thread Publishing, it's like my whole life was transformed. And I'm really, I feel very grateful. I hope we can have you on, and I can have you on after the publication of Unfollow the Leader, because that's going to be a beautiful piece of work. It's like a piece of art and creativity. And so we can talk a lot more. We can be on here for hours and hours, Sierra. For all our viewers, please do go to redthread.com or contact us at Dreem Coaching and Consulting. We're on Instagram. If you like this interview, please share, follow and share. Send it out to the world. Writing something that's important to you can transform your entire life. It can make you into the person, a completely different person where you see things very differently. It's a spiritual journey that takes you to a whole new level. So all I can say to you from personal experience now is don't stop yourself from doing it. Contact Sierra. Contact me, I'll put you in touch with Sierra. Now, you can stay in contact with us as well at Dreem Coaching and Consulting. The second book is coming out soon through Red Thread. And again, thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you do. And we are going to see you again soon, Sierra.
Thank you so much, Reem. Absolutely. I will be here for it. And I really appreciate, again, being invited into the space and helping you relaunch this conversation. I'm excited to hear future podcasts as well.
Thank you and love your work. Bye for now.